Magic the Gathering needs a new rarity. Or two. In 2008, in an article entitled "The Year of Living Changerously," Mark Rosewater explains why Wizards of the Coast would add a new rarity, Mythic Rare. In this article, Rosewater goes on in depth about why they added a new rarity to the game, and why it needed to be done. If you want to read up on the details, I'll link the article in the description below. Between the beginning of Magic and 2008, about 10 years had passed, a little bit more. Magic had grown to a point of needing to expand. It's been nearly the same amount of time since that happened between 2008 and now. And since the game has grown so much, I suggest we add another rarity, or two. Let's start with cards like Wildheart Invoker and Viscera Seer. Both of these are commons, but one has seen a ton of play in all formats throughout the years since it's been printed. Wildheart Invoker came out on April 23, 2010 with Rise of the Eldrazi, and Viscera Seer came out the same year in July with Core Set 11. Both coming out the same year without allowing time for power creep, these two should be on a somewhat similar level, don't you think? Both are commons after all. Let's take another example. Zephyr Spirit came out in original Ravnica in 2005. Zephyr Spirit is notoriously bad. A 6 mana 0/6 that returns to your hand when it blocks? What even is this? To put that in perspective, this came out only 5 years prior to Core Set 11 when Seer was first printed. Aether Revolt, Amonkhet Block, and Ixalan all came out 5 years prior to now, 2022. There are still cards that frequently get used in Magic from those sets, and it was the same for folks in 2010. The same goes for rares. Let's grab some newerish examples. Glorious Anthem and Spear of Heliod. Now I know Glorious Anthem isn't technically new, I will get to that. These both do the same thing, giving your creatures +1/+1, but Spear gives you the option to destroy creatures if they hit us. Anthem doesn't have an extra ability, and while the Spear may be easier to remove due to its typing, it still gives you an extra thing. Force of Virtue is literally the same thing as Glorious Anthem, but you can now cast it for essentially free by exiling a white card from your hand, and you can do that at instant speed, allowing you to be able to cast it for free by exiling a white card from your hand. This immediately gets infinitely better than just Glorious Anthem. You kind of see where I'm going with this. Glorious Anthem, Force of Virtue, both do the same thing, but Force of Virtue is way easier to cast, and it's at instant speed. Now, I won't take the weird, Glorious Anthem is older and less good as a rare, because that's not really an argument. In 2019, Force of Virtue came out, and they reprinted Glorious Anthem as a rare in 2020. So there's not really much, yeah. The best two examples, in my opinion, are Smothering Tithe and Monologue Tax. Monologue Tax triggers once per turn on a second spell, and it might not even trigger. Smothering Tithe, on the other hand, triggers every single time somebody draws, and that's incredible in a commander game. And just about any game, you know, you're making a treasure, unless they pay 2, just constantly. Monologue Tax, you know, if you're in a 4-player game, that'll trigger 3 times. Oh, okay, maybe. So, why is that one rare and the other one's still rare? There's a weird power disparity between these cards. All this being said, I'd like to propose 2 new rarities that the community needs to discuss. Keep your discussion civil, people. I propose the new rarities Beginner's Common and Fabled Rare. Beginner's Commons would have the set symbols reminiscent of Dominaria's white common set symbol. You're at the beginning of the road. You're just being shown the ropes. You kind of need a helping hand. These would be reserved for players that are starting the game and need a good base to stand on. These could be printed in pre-made introductory decks that Wizards already makes, but being exclusive to those so more seasoned players don't find them in their drafts on Friday nights. By keeping them exclusive to smaller sets, Wizards wouldn't have to print as many of them or worry about them taking up coveted slots in set releases. Much like Planeswalker deck cards such as Dovin's Automaton, they'd be at the end of the set list, showing that they're an addition to the set, along with vanilla creatures and stuff like that. In keeping in line with the Planeswalker decks, fabled rare cards would take over more powerful rare slots. You'd see cards like Force of Virtue, Hinata Dawncrowned, Smothering Tithe, and Cryptic Command as fabled rares, whereas cards like Glorious Anthem, Sphinx of Magasi, and Monologue Tax would stay as less powerful rare cards, making the new order of cards Beginner's Common, Common, Uncommon, Rare, Fabled Rare, and Mythic Rare. The differentiation between commons and rares just within the last 10 years is astonishing, and I'm sure R&D felt the same way in 2008 with the introduction of mythic rares. I think this would facilitate a good change in the MTG community as well. Draft packs could be split now to have 9 commons, 3 uncommons, 1 rare, 1 fabled rare or mythic rare, and your land slot. As I said before, beginners commons would be set aside for beginners products only. Furthermore, bumping some cards down in rarity would give players opportunities to find better cards in packs more consistently with the added rarity slot and 1 less common card that they have 23 copies of already. By creating lower slots for cards, be they common or rare, I think it would make the game a little bit better, making better cards more accessible to newer players who are just trying to catch a Commander game at their local game store. In conclusion, let's create an environment that shows players what can be done with higher or lower level cards through extra rarities. By eliminating a little bit of extra draft chaff and reserving the most basic vanilla creature cards to learning players, I think overall drafting would be more fun. You'll expand packs by giving players a guaranteed rare and a fabled rare or mythic rare, so you don't feel cheated when you pay $4 for your pack and you find a rare that's worth 25 cents. Doing it in this way would make cracking packs at home more fun as well. Guaranteeing that rare slot gives players the added benefit of finding 2 potentially amazing cards in their packs. And while set boosters have kind of done this, it leaves a lot to be desired. Never guaranteeing any great rares and never having guaranteed slots, it's kind of all over the place. By separating the cheaper rares from the better fabled rares and mythics, I think players would have an overall better pack experience. Thank you for watching this super long video and just listening to me rant. I hope it wasn't too dull. Making this change, hopefully Wizards of the Coast would help the game a little bit better, and adding just a little bit of variety to pack openings and beginners players and just like YouTube channels opening packs, and it would broaden everything significantly in my opinion. And honestly, if you just wanted to add the one rarity or the other, I think that would still expand the game enough for newer players and older players, keeping things more interesting as time goes on. All right, with all that being said, thank you for your continued support. I will see you guys next week for your weekly dose of magic. To support this channel, visit the TCGplayer affiliate link in the description below. And if you want to support the channel directly, visit patreon.com/ManfredPlusMagic. As a patron, you'll have access to the community Discord where you can talk with myself and other friends about all things magic. And you'll find even more benefits for each tier, starting at $1 as a copper.